Hello, Todd Long here, Home Advantage Partners, homeadvantagepartners.com. You can reach us at 704-360-0667. It's here at the end of December 2016, and I put together some information on what's been happening in our real estate market and also some predictions for the future. And wanted to give you an overview of this. Just take a couple of minutes, hopefully. We're going to look at a national perspective, then we're going to pull it into a regional perspective, and then we're going to pull it into a hyper-local perspective, even looking here at the Mooresville, North Carolina real estate market. So first of all, I got some information from Lawrence Yun, the chief economist for NAR, that I want to share with you. So I'm going to read you a couple of things and then give you my analysis of it. Lawrence Yun looked back at this, looking at this next year, stated that he thinks the tight supply and affordability issues affecting buyers in the market will very slowly but surely start to abate. Yun predicts the housing starts will jump 5.3% next year to 1.2 million. So we'll talk a little bit more about the housing starts here in just a second. However, this is still under the 1.5 million new home starts needed to make up for the shortfall in recent years and keep up for the growing demand. And ready to step into those new homes are millennials. Both Yun and Lockhart, another economist, state that they are optimistic that the housing demand will include leading-edge millennials households finally dropping their toes into the market at a growing rate. According to Yun, forecasts for next year existing home sales are projected to grow roughly 2% to around 5.46 million, and then expects a more prominent jump of 4% in 2018. So, talking about this new home starts, this is something I've been looking at for, well, many years. Actually, ever since 2007, 8, 9, I started looking back at the new home starts and realized that we overbuilt the market, and I said I would watch this number of new home starts for the rest of my life to kind of have a predictor of where we're going with the economy. So I pulled this chart for you, and you can see on this chart that it shows that over time we've bounced around new home starts, but on average we can take about 1.5 million new home starts per year in the economy and the real estate market, which makes sense because we add about 3 million people to the population every year. Some people die, there's babies that are born, they grow up. A lot of times those people get married, they want to buy a house together. So 3 million new people added to the population equals about 1.5 million new home starts that we can, on average, take in for a balanced market. Well, ever since 2008, we've seen that number dramatically decrease in the number of new home starts that we've actually had. As a matter of fact, we went from just above 2 million new home starts in 2006 and 7. We dropped down to almost 500,000 new home starts in 2009. So 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, we were still below 1 million new home starts. So we have 5 years also of below average that we're going to have to make up as well, which is what is causing primarily us to have the lack of inventory in the market. Because if one person sells their house, they buy somebody else's house, that person buys somebody else's house, and the last person buys the first person's house, we actually didn't create any inventory. Everybody just moved. The only way we get new inventory is with new home starts. So that's the reason that 1.5 million new home starts is such a critical number, and a number that I will continue to watch. Until we get to that 1.5, we're probably going to see that we don't have enough inventory in the market. So if we move on and we look here at the month supply of homes for sale. Now this is in the Charlotte region of month supply homes for sale. Sorry, trying to get my camera correct here for you. You can see that back in 2009, 10, 11, we were up at about 14, 15 months supply of inventory in our market. And now for all of the Charlotte region, which is many counties around Charlotte, we are down to under 4 months of inventory in our market. Now, a balanced market is 5 to 7 months of inventory. So anytime we have less than 5 months of inventory, we are in a seller's market, meaning that there's not enough inventory for buyers to buy, and sellers are usually getting a little bit better price for their home. Prices are typically on the rise when you have less inventory. Supply and demand. Anybody that's ever studied anything about the economy or math in general knows that supply and demand, if you have low supply and high demand, prices are going to go up. So the next thing we'll look at here is the Housing Affordability Index. So the Housing Affordability Index basically shows how much of a person's income will actually go to their housing, and the more money they have to put towards their housing based on their income reduces the purchase price that they can actually make. I hope that actually makes sense. But for the last couple of years, we've started seeing that number tighten up, tighten up, tighten up. We're still not in bad shape yet as far as housing affordability goes, but it is starting to tighten. And as we see that number decrease even more, we're going to start to see people get pushed out of the housing market. But we're not there yet. I figure we have a couple more years left before we see any problems there. The next thing we'll look at is our median sales price. Now I have a graph here also for the average sales price on the next page that I'll share with you, but honestly I like the median sales price graph better, only because you know, the median sales price is the top and the bottom taken off, the top and the bottom taken off, top and the bottom taken off. That brings you down to the median sales price. I just like watching that number a little bit better than I do the average sales price. Either way, the trend line is the same, and we have seen it steadily increasing in the median sales price in the Charlotte region ever since basically 2011. That was really the bottom that the housing prices came down. And we were at the top at 2007, 2008, we were up to 180,000 was the median sales price. Well, we passed that number in 2013, between 2013 and 14. So we've steadily seen the median sales price growing in the Charlotte region. What does that mean for you? Well, if you're a buyer, that means that the house prices are still going up, which is always good to be buying in a market that's going up instead of down, because as soon as you take ownership of the property, you'll start to gain some appreciation. It also means as a seller, most of the time people need to be able to sell for more than what they bought a property for in order to pay off the related mortgage, having a little bit of money set aside to go buy their next house. So for that reason, the median sales price being on the rise is actually good for both parties involved in the transaction. And there's the average sales price graph. No reason to really show you that. Now, this is something that we watch in the real estate industry pretty specifically for when we're pricing a property for a seller, and that's the percent of original list price received. Now, what that means is normally if we're getting pretty close to the list price for the sales price, that shows that the market is really tight. Buyers are having to bid pretty close to the list price on a home in order to get it. So the tighter that number get from list price to sales price usually is an indication of the tighter the market is. So when you have low supply, high demand, you start to see that number shrink. And now we're at 96.2% list price to sales price for all of the year 2016, which is up 1.3% from the year before, which was up 1.1% from the year before that. So that's showing that we're still seeing a tightening of the inventory in our market, which means, again, we need some more new home starts in order to alleviate that crunch in the inventory. Very important for a buyer to know also, you know, we do have buyers still from time to time come into this market and they want to steal a property. They want to make a low-ball offer on a property. Well, when you're at 96.2% list price to sales price ratio, unless the property is in really bad shape or there's some functional obsolescence or some reason that it will not sell on this market, you're usually going to pay 96.2% of list price or close to it. All right, another graph I wanted to show you, and this actually now gets into our what I call hyper-local statistics, and this is actually for Mooresville, and this is looking at the new listing inventory. When we look at the new listing inventory, that is our supply in the market. And as you can see, we had a lot of supply in the market in 2007, 8, 9, 10. Really started dropping off 2011 and 12. You'll see there it really started dropping off 2011 and 12. And the primary reason for that is we had a lot of the Blackstones, REITs, the investor money that came into the market with deep pockets, and they were buying up all the inventory 2011 and moving into 2012. And sure enough, you know, once they started easing out of the market a little bit, we started to see the inventory pick up a little bit in 2012 and 2013. The inventory picked up a little bit, but we're still historically low on the amount of new listings that are actually in the market. So we do need some new listings. If you're thinking about selling your house in 2017, we definitely need to talk about how this will actually affect you to the good. The other thing I wanted to show you is our closed sales. And in Mooresville, and this is actually looking at the whole entire market in Mooresville. We'll get a little bit more hyper-local into a certain price range here in a second. But we look at the closed sale graph in Mooresville. You'll notice back in 2009, 10, 11, that's when we had the least amount of sales. 2009, 10, and 11. What's interesting is you see that little bump, 2010, 2011. That was actually the tax credit that the federal government tried to put into the market in order to boost to the real estate market. And as is pretty normal, whenever you put something in the market to prop it up, it usually deflates again if it's not a real recovery, and that's exactly what happened. And then the real recovery did start happening in 2012. 2012, 13, 14, a little bit of a dip, 14 to 15. 16 definitely been on the rise, and this is our closed sales in Mooresville. And we are almost back at the peak that we had back in 2006, which we should go past that peak. I would say considerably past that peak, only because we have more people that are moving into the area, so you'll see more closed sales actually happen. All right, just a couple more graphs to go through here with you. I also pulled one for Mooresville for 250 to 400,000. I'm sorry, to 250 to 500,000 for a month's supply of homes. Again, when you looked at it in the whole entire Charlotte region, we were a little bit below 5 months of inventory. Balanced market being 5 to 7 months, and a seller's market being less than 5 months. And the month's supply of inventory for Mooresville, we are actually bouncing along right at that 5 months of inventory. So it's getting to the point where we're going to start to see buyers not being able to get a good value for the homes, and it actually gets dangerous when we get below 5 months of inventory, because we start to see prices appreciate too quickly and start to push people out of the market. But right now we're in a great position. House prices are on the rise, and we do have pretty tight inventory in the market, which means that sellers are getting a fair deal for their house, and buyers, if you are aggressive about getting out there and actually, you know, offering a market value for a home, you'll actually ride this appreciation wave up in this market. So good when prices are actually on the rise a little bit. The last one I wanted to show you here is the median days on the market graph, and this is again for Mooresville, and this is Mooresville, North Carolina, and this is for 250 to 500,000. And you see that graph there, and it shows us that the median days on market is really on the decrease. You know, the peak was back in 2011 and 12, where we were actually above 100 days on the market. So almost 4 months of inventory, 4 months that your house would normally stay on the market in that 250 to 500,000 range. And now we're seeing that houses that are priced appropriately in that market are selling in about 50 days. So doing really well getting a home sold in 50 days right now in that market, which again is an indication of tight supply in the market. I hope this market update has been helpful for you. I know that it is a lot of information that I just went over with you. The great news is we are real estate professionals. This is what we do every day, is track this information for you. So if you have any questions about the real estate market in Mooresville, North Carolina, in the Charlotte region, we certainly can help you with that. Give us a call at 704-360-0667. Have a great 2017.